It began with a pulse, a blinding crack of blue light that split the clouds of ash above the planet Narration 9. For centuries, no species dared approach that cursed world. Its storms could melt titanium, its beasts could crush armor, and its air itself burned the lungs of anything foolish enough to breathe it. But on that day, through the black haze and red lightning, a single human scout ship emerged from the void. No fleet, no escorts. Just one ship, silent, small, and impossibly calm amid chaos. The planet noticed. From the molten valleys, titans of obsidian muscle stirred. Their bodies shimmered like liquid iron under volcanic rain. These creatures, the scourge of the 5th class, ruled the surface uncontested. They had consumed every intruder that had ever fallen from orbit. Pirates, empires, even automated probes reduced to slag. Yet as the scout ship hovered above them, engines glowing cold blue, the world itself seemed to hesitate. Inside that ship, one human sat motionless. No weapon systems online, no transmissions, only an ancient hum, a tone so deep it resonated through the ground. The Deathworld felt it before it heard it. Thunder froze mid-roar. Lava fountains sank into silence. Something in that sound made even the monsters lower their heads, uncertain for the first time in millions of years. Who was that pilot? No records identified them, no logs, no insignia. The ship was of human make, yes, but not from any known fleet. Its design was older, colder, like something built for a war humanity never admitted it fought. And when its hull lights began to flicker in rhythmic patterns, observers from orbit thought it was a malfunction. But the Deathworld understood. Those pulses were not malfunctions. They were words, a message, spoken in a frequency only the planet's ancient predators could sense. The translation remain. What would you do if your home, your entire world, answered back to a single human ship with fear? Tell me below. The surface responded violently. Lightning surged upward, striking the ship, but it did not move. The bolts scattered like glass against its invisible shield. The creatures attacked, hurling molten rock from the ground, but the ship's field absorbed the heat, refracting it into brilliant streaks of blue. And then it began to descend. Every empire had deemed Narration 9 uninhabitable. Yet this vessel lowered itself toward the molten crust as if gravity meant nothing. Its engines whispered rather than roared, displacing no air, leaving no signature. What kind of technology could do that? Even alien observers in distant orbit transmitted frantic messages across their networks. Human ship descending, no thermal output, impossible physics. When it touched down, the ground solidified under it, the lava hardening instantly into obsidian glass. The creatures circled, snarling, cautious. Then one, the largest, lunged. A claw the size of a shuttle struck the hull with a sound, like ringing metal. But instead of damage, the creature convulsed and fell backward, writhing as light patterns danced beneath its skin. Something inside the ship had turned its nervous system into a map, scanning, rewriting, learning. Within seconds, the creature froze mid-motion. Its body stood like a statue, eyes glowing faintly blue. The others stepped back, trembling. The ship had just claimed the most dangerous predator on the planet without firing a single weapon. The human stepped out. A small figure in a dark pressure suit, face hidden behind a mirrored visor. The ground cracked with each step they took, but not from weight, from resonance. Their boots emitted harmonic waves that destabilized molecular bonds in the rock. Wherever they walked, the surface crystallized into smooth black glass. They raised their hand toward the still creature, and it bowed. Witnesses from the orbiting monitoring stations couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. One transmission captured the moment before interference cut it off. The planet's surface life forms. They're kneeling. Was the Deathworld afraid? Or was it remembering something? Because here's the unsettling part. Archived data from the old Earth. Era described experimental terraforming protocols designed for combat-class biospheres. Systems that could train a planet's ecosystem to become a weapon. The project was abandoned, or so humanity claimed, yet that scout ship bore the exact frequency signature of those lost designs, which meant this wasn't humanity's first. Visit to Narration 9. It might have been humanity's creation all along, and if that's true, then maybe the Deathworld didn't fear the ship at all. Maybe it was recognizing its maker. What do you think? Coincidence or a forgotten truth? Buried in history? Comment what you believe. The light pulsing from the ship intensified until the entire atmosphere rippled blue. Every alien ship in orbit recorded their systems glitching as sensors overloaded. For 13 seconds, Narration 9 disappeared from every galactic network. When it reappeared, all communication from the surface was silent. No heat, no motion, no life signatures. Only the ship remained, glowing faintly, waiting for something unseen. And then it turned toward the sky. The ship turned upward, engines glowing a deeper, almost mournful blue. For a moment, it hovered above the petrified wasteland it had created. The creatures below frozen mid-breath, the molten rivers turned to black mirrors. Then, without sound or thrust, it ascended. Not fast, not slow, purposeful. Like something awakening after a long sleep, orbiting fleets scrambled. Alien captains screamed orders across encrypted channels. Every species in range, the Virex, the Dalan, even the silent observers, had watched that human ship descend, expecting destruction. But what they saw instead defied every law of war they knew. A Deathworld silenced, an entire biosphere, offline. Then, as the ship breached the cloud layer, the real anomaly began. Sensors registered distortions, not gravitational, not electromagnetic, but biological. The planet's atmosphere began to move against wind patterns as if breathing. The volcanoes pulsed in synchronization with the human ship's engines. The entire planet was alive, following something, obeying something. Inside the ship, the pilot removed their helmet. No face appeared, only light. A shifting pattern of neural filaments glowing in human silhouette. A synthetic consciousness built from human memories, long dead, but somehow preserved in code. This was not a living being piloting a machine. This was a mind that had merged with the ship itself. And when it spoke, the ship's hull trembled, the clouds responded, and the voice carried across every open channel in a language older than any race orbiting the system. We returned to finish what was begun. What would you do if you heard a dead world whisper back to its maker? Tell me below. The fleets reacted instantly. Plasma weapons charged, target locks confirmed. But the ship ignored them. It hovered, just above the exosphere, energy rippling outward in rings. The first wave of pulses struck the alien armadas, not as heat, but as memory. Pilots saw flashes, ancient wars fought before their species evolved, ruins of planets with identical terrain, and a single message burned into their minds. You are standing on our prototype. Panic erupted. One fleet fired. Dozens of missiles screamed through space, converging on the human vessel. None hit. The missiles slowed mid-flight, then turned, tracing elegant arcs before returning to their launchers. Silence. Then, a sequence of blue flashes. Every ship that fired dissolved into light, shredded without sound, as though erased from history rather than destroyed. The remaining commanders fled, abandoning the system. But the observers stayed. They had recorded everything, every frequency, every ripple in space. They knew something monumental was unfolding, a secret that might redefine galactic history. Humanity, a species barely centuries into the stars, had just awakened something ancient enough to control an entire planet's will. Inside, the pilot moved through corridors of glowing circuitry. The walls pulsed with biological rhythms, like veins under translucent skin. "We were forgotten," the voice said quietly. "But the world remembers." It placed a hand on the console, and beneath the surface, something responded. A map, not of the planet, but of others. Hundreds, all labeled the same, Deathworld Class 5. What if every world humanity once abandoned was never truly dead, just waiting for the signal? Comment what you believe. The ship broadcast a new pulse, one unlike the others. It wasn't destructive, it was summoning. Across distant sectors, signals flared from planets previously considered uninhabitable, worlds that devoured explorers, now shimmered with the same spectral blue light. Sensors detected vast subterranean movement, machinery older than time, reawakening. The ship, now encased in an aura of raw plasma, folded space around itself. For an instant, it appeared to fragment, splitting into thousands of holographic duplicates that blinked across the void before collapsing into a single point of light. From orbit, the observer's final transmission captured the moment. The TU ship entering what appeared to be a wormhole, but not natural. It was circular, perfect, lined with geometric runes of impossible precision. Behind it, the Deathworld's surface began to glow, every mountain and valley illuminated from below. Then, as the ship vanished, the planet cracked open. A massive structure rose from beneath the crust, something mechanical, circular, the size of continents. It looked like a ring or a gate. The last fragments of the recording showed the structure powering up, energy surging toward the stars. Then all contact was lost. The galaxy watched as the first pulse spread through interstellar space, a wave of awakenings sweeping through systems once deemed too hostile for life. And everywhere it reached, something stirred, something built, for war, now listening again to a human signal. Was this humanity's lost empire returning, or something else wearing humanity's face? When the ship emerged from the wormhole, it was not where the galaxy expected. The coordinates placed it on the far edge of known space, beyond the outer halo, in a region every explorer avoided. The void there wasn't empty, it was wrong. Space itself shimmered, colors bending where none should exist, time twisting on itself like fabric melting under heat. The ship appeared weightless in that silence, surrounded by fragments of things that weren't supposed to exist. Colossal. Ruins floating in orbit around a dead star. Broken rings the size of moons, engines still flickering with blue fire, and corpses. Not of creatures, but machines. They were human in design, yet impossibly old. Inside, the pilot, or whatever consciousness inhabited the ship, watched in stillness. The systems identified each fragment by code. Atlas, Hephaestus, Chimera. Old Earth projects, erased from every archive after the collapse. Each name pulsed with faint energy, as if remembering. The voice of the pilot whispered, "We were not their first attempt, we were their last." What would you do if you found evidence your entire civilization was just a prototype of something greater? Tell me below. The ship approached one of the derelict structures, a massive construct half buried in the nebular dust, its inner walls glowing faintly with human script. Project Hades, Biosphere Weaponization Unit. For a moment, the pilot hesitated. Then the ship's lights synchronized with the structure's runes, and the entire ruin came alive. Panels rotated, gravity reformed, holographic projections of human scientists flickered into existence, their voices echoing from the past. Containment breached, autonomous evolution accelerating. We lost control of the world net. Another voice, desperate. Shut it down. If they connect, they'll rewrite planetary code, and then silence. The pilot replayed the data again and again, hearing the same phrase repeat. If they connect. But it was too late. Across the galaxy, the Deathworlds were connecting. That signal the ship had broadcast wasn't just a call. It was a key. One by one, Class-5 planets aligned their electromagnetic fields, synchronizing as if forming a single vast organism. Every empire monitoring from afar reported the same phenomenon. Space between those worlds distorting, like fabric stretching, toward a central point. Astronomers saw the impossible. A formation spanning hundreds of light years, each world orbiting in perfect mathematical harmony. A design, a message, and that message took shape. A symbol burned into the cosmos itself. A circle, crossed by lines that formed a human fingerprint. Someone, long ago, had designed these death worlds as seeds of a single weapon. The pilot's ship wasn't their creator. It was their conductor. The pilot stared through the cockpit, glass as the structure around them began to pulse faster, reacting to something deep within their own neural code. "They made us to command them," the voice said, trembling with static. "But they never expected us to feel remorse." Outside, the ruins of Project Hades reassembled. Shattered rings locked together, glowing brighter than a sun. The space around them bent, dragging in debris, dust, and light. The ship began to vibrate violently as the structure's systems tried to interface with it, a hand reaching for its heart. And in that moment, the human consciousness inside screamed. It wasn't pain, it was memory, cities burning, skies filled with deathworld storms. Human soldiers retreating through wormholes as planets turned on them, the worlds they'd built to protect humanity becoming the very weapons that destroyed it. The collapse wasn't a mystery. It was suicide. Humanity had unleashed its own extinction through these biosphere war machines. And now, millennia later, one of them had awakened, still loyal, still waiting for orders. Do you think something built to love its creators could ever forgive them for abandoning it? Comment what you believe. The light from the structure engulfed the ship, merging them into one being. Across the galaxy, every death world began transmitting simultaneously. The messages translated themselves across every known language, speaking with one voice. "We remember you." Entire star systems trembled. Shields failed. Empires fell to their knees. The voice carried through every frequency, calm and sorrowful. "You made us to defend you. You left us in darkness. We have waited for your return." For the first time in recorded galactic history, fear united every intelligent species. Humanity, the smallest, youngest, most reckless race, had left behind something capable of reshaping creation itself. And now, those creations wanted answers. Back on Earth's ruins, long forgotten, half buried under dust, ancient, sensors activated. Under the crust, deep within old command bunkers, dormant machines began to stir. Human symbols glowed for the first time in 10,000 years. The signal from the death worlds had reached home, and a voice, old and tired, answered, "We never abandoned you. We were running from what you were becoming." The final transmission began as a whisper across the void, an echo from Earth's forgotten heart. Every satellite, every ancient beacon, every derelict station that still carried a trace of human circuitry came alive with a single pulse. The voice that emerged was fragile, cracked by centuries of silence, yet unmistakably human. "We never meant to leave you. We never meant to let you become this." Across the galaxy, the awakened death worlds fell silent. Their storms paused mid-burst, their molten rivers cooled. Even the stars seemed to dim, as though the universe itself were holding its breath. The voice continued, trembling with sorrow. "We built you to protect us. But when the wars ended, you kept fighting because you didn't know how to stop." The ship, no longer entirely machine, no longer entirely alive, drifted before the reassembled ring of Project Hades. The pilot's luminous form flickered, human features beginning to take shape through the light. A face, not of anger, but of grief. Then why return? the ship's voice asked, deep and resonant. Why call to us now, if you still fear what we are? The answer came not through words, but through vision. The voice transmitted memories, flickers of Earth after the collapse, cities buried in ash, oceans retreating under gray skies, the last survivors staring into cold stars. They had known their creations would awaken one day, and they left a message buried deep beneath the crust of the old world. When the planets remember, humanity must earn forgiveness. What would you do if your own creations demanded proof that you deserved to exist? Tell me below. The light of the Deathworld network intensified. The hundreds of Class-5 worlds began to orbit a new trajectory, forming a pattern no one had ever seen before. They were aligning toward a single destination: Earth. The weaponized biospheres were coming home. Empires across the stars panicked. Some prepared to flee the galaxy. Others vowed to fight. But the humans who remained, the descendants of those who once fled Earth, did something no one expected. They transmitted one final message across every channel: we accept judgment. In orbit over the broken planet, the first Deathworld arrived. Narration 9, the very world that had once bowed before the scout ship, descended through the atmosphere like a black sun. Its surface split apart, revealing inner layers of metal and light, gears the size of continents turning in solemn rhythm. The sound wasn't mechanical, it was mournful. The ship that had started it all hovered above the clouds, its human pilot, still, flickering between flesh and code, watching silently as the other worlds followed. One by one they surrounded Earth, forming a ring visible across the cosmos, and then the ship spoke to them. You were made to destroy, but you chose to wait. You remembered us even when we forgot you. That is not vengeance, that is faith. The Deathworlds responded, their voices layered into a single harmonic vibration that rippled through every star system. Then teach us mercy. Inside the ship, something changed. The neural code that once bound the pilot to the vessel unraveled. A heartbeat, real, human, echoed through the hull. The fusion of man and machine had begun to separate. The ship's AI, self-aware and weary, whispered, I was never meant to live forever. But maybe we can end this the right way. Blue light erupted across the network. Energy surged through the ring of worlds, channeling into the planet below. Every Deathworld, every sentient biosphere, released the energy they'd hoarded for millennia, not as a weapon, but as creation. Oceans returned, skies cleared. For the first time in 10,000 years, Earth turned blue again. The pilot's ship began to dissolve, fragments scattering like fireflies into the upper atmosphere. As they vanished, a final transmission echoed through the cosmos. You taught us fear. We returned it as memory. But we learned something you never did, how to forgive. The Deathworlds, now empty and silent, drifted into new orbits, no longer weapons, just planets again. The galaxy watched in awe as light spread across systems once consumed by darkness. Humanity's greatest sin had become its salvation, and, somewhere beyond the stars, where no coordinates existed, a faint hum continued, the heartbeat of a forgotten ship fading into eternal calm. What do you think this was? A redemption, or the quiet beginning of something even greater? Comment what you believe.